Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Paper Crafting Thursday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I hope everybody's well today. I have a very fun project. I'm going to be showing you how you can make a very easy journal, and this is a journal that could be used for a variety of purposes. So you could put watercolor paper in it and make a sketchbook. You could put copy paper in it and use it as a gratitude journal. You could use it as a travel log, maybe have a combination of both watercolor paper and copy paper. You could use a better quality paper than the standard copy paper and maybe get some 100% cotton paper or some special handmade paper. It's really entirely up to you, but I'm just going to show you some of the very basic things that you can do to get started. And I'm hoping to have the chance to share this project with a lot of you. So let's look at the things and we'll get started. So I have gathered an assortment of supplies. So I have the beautiful motifs stamp set and dies, and I love, love, love these dies, and this is a brand new bundle. I haven't even had a chance to try it out yet, but I thought that this might be a good occasion to do that. I particularly like Celebrate, and I think this is really pretty. So we'll see about the stamps, but I definitely want to use these stamps, and these are some vintage Stampin' Up! Stamps, and I'm not sure of the year. I could look that up. Oh, there it is, 2003. 2003. So these stamps are 22 years old. And you know, the interesting thing about the rubber stamps is that they pretty much last forever. And these, of course, were created back in the day when we were still using the wooden blocks. But I wanted this stamp set because it says, "When in doubt, dance." And I love, love, love this sentiment. It says, "Dance as if no one were watching, sing as if no one were listening, and live each day as if it were your last." And I know that there's a bunch of you out there that have been collecting rubber stamps for a long time, and you may even have this in your stash. But if you don't have this one, you can use any stamps that you like. Anything that resonates with you will be just fine. I also have handy a kit, and this is one of the brand new kits, and I really love this one. I'm kind of excited about it. It's called Heirloom Arrangements Kit. And if you're not familiar with what the kit is, it comes in the mail like this, in a box that you can use over and over again to store all the pieces. It comes with complete instructions, so you can see how to make several different versions of these cards, and they look like this, so they're very pretty. There's a lot of flowers, butterflies, ferns, sentiments, some vintage looking labels, so it's a wonderful assortment of items. And you also get some ink. So this kit comes with some a color called Pecan Pie, and I just dumped all my things out here. I carefully punched out all the different things and I just dumped them. So what I did was I took the labels and the tags and things, and I just punched them out, and then I put them in a clear envelope to keep them handy. Also in here you have an assortment of card bases and envelopes, and these are different patterns, and so it's a really nice kind of eclectic mix. You also get some double stick tape, some dimensionals, which I'll talk about a little later. And you get a stamp set, and the stamp set's kind of wonderful. It has Thankful and Grateful, which I think is going to be terrific for my gratitude journal. It also has this adorable butterfly, and then it has this sort of grid background stamp. So I think this is going to be very useful in this project. And you also get a clear block to mount your stamps onto. So all you do is open up your little packet, get out your stamps. These are photopolymer stamps. This is the modern version of the old woodblock stamps. Just peel it off, stick it onto your clear block, and you're good to go. And the advantage to this is, of course, you can see through it as you're positioning your stamp, and also it's a whole lot easier to store these little thin photopolymer stamps than it is to store these heavy wooden blocks. So that's why people move more towards this. So the project that we're going to be making is going to be utilizing a old file folder. Okay, so this is just, I have some extra copy paper in here, but this is just your basic file folder. You may have some old ones of these kicking around, and this makes for a nice sturdy cover that will take a lot of handling. And so if you're using it to travel with, if you're tucking it into your bag, whatever the case may be, this is going to hold up pretty well. I also pulled out some decorative designer series paper, and this is called Botanical Textures. It's 12 by 12, and you get 12 sheets in here, and these are double-sided designs. And this paper is archival. It's not going to turn yellow or tear easily. It's going to be nice, strong. It has a beautiful feel to it. And you can see here an example of the double-sided design. Here's another one. Similar pattern with the lighter colored background. Whoa, that almost looks like feathers. So I'm going to use one of these. Maybe I'll keep them both out just in case. All right, so I'm looking for a darker background. I want something that's going to not show any dirt or smudges or whatever that may occur over the lifetime of this journal. And the journal that we're going to make is big enough to hold a full-size sheet of the copy paper. So this is 8.5 by 11, folded in half, and that's going to be bound in the journal just like so. Okay, so we have a little bit of coverage around all the sides to help protect the paper. And we've got a spine here that measures just about 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit shy of 1/2 inch. So that's plenty for one signature, and that's all we're going to do today. If you wanted to customize your journal to have more than one signature, you could make a wider spine. But for today's purposes, I just want to keep it nice and simple. And so let me show you how I cut this down. I use my paper trimmer, my trusty paper trimmer, and I measured. Get my ruler out here, my big ruler. So the cover measures 5 3/4 by 8 7/8. And then, as I mentioned, the spine is about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut this at 6. And there's actually, on this folder, there's a little fold here. I misspoke. I'm going to fold it at 6. I want to leave a little bit extra on there because I've made these pockets on the inside. So I want to do that again. And these pockets measure about 2 inches. So 6 and 2 is 8. I'm just going to begin by removing these hanging hooks, and I think I have to open this up to do it properly. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna take them off to get started, and then I'll measure more carefully. I think it will be easier that way. Just remove those things. Get my bigger scissors out for this job. There we go. Okay, now we can measure more carefully. So getting this back in on the 8-inch mark. Make sure that you can see the 8 inches over here. And for the height, it's 8 7/8. So 8 7/8, and actually, you know what? I'm going to trim because this file folder has seen better days. I'm just going to begin with a clean edge so that it's nice and neat. So there we go, 8 7/8. And I'm going to save these scraps. They may become useful later. Just check, and that looks about right. The next thing I did was to use not the middle fold, but 1 1/4 inch on either side of that. So I'm just going to give that a little press. one on each side. And this is going to give me that 1/2 inch spine measurement. And take my bone folder. Let me get my other. Give that a good crease. Okay, so there's my spine. And then I'm going to fold this in on that fold line that was already on the file folder. Now, if your file folder doesn't have that fold line, then you can just score it and make sure that that's nice and even. Now I can take my folded 8.5 by 11 copy paper and I can just tuck this in here, and I can see that I've got plenty of protection around the 3 sides. To make these little pockets, all I did was add a little bit of glue. And I'm just going to hold that in place for a minute till that sets. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, and that is all there is to it as far as the cover goes. I've got some glue seeping out the end there. Now once your glue starts to set, you can use your bone folder, give that a good press, and that will stay nicely adhered. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is decorate my cover. And to do that, I'm going to use my decorative paper and kind of like this one. This one's very pretty. It almost looks like a composition notebook, but I think that for this one I'm going to go a little bit bolder with this bigger pattern. And I'm going to cut this a little bit smaller than the surface. So let's see, I'm going to call this 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. Well, wait a minute. Let me do 8 1/2. I'm going to do 8 1/2. 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. So once again, I'm going to get my trimmer. If you don't have a trimmer, I would seriously consider getting one. I love this trimmer. It gives you a beautiful perpendicular cut every time. I'm going to cut this at 5 1/4 . by 8.5. Save all these pieces. And I like that. And, you know, I'm thinking I want to do the same thing on the back. For the back cover. So let me cut out a second piece. Now, if you are someone who likes to sketch or paint, you could use one of your paintings to decorate the cover. Also, that would be really nice. And then you could rub it with that, that waxy finish to help protect it. And it would stand up very nicely. You could use a heavy watercolor paper, which would add to the stability of the book. But today I want to make it easy for everybody, and especially for those who have a nice collection of the DSP already. So you can pick whatever you like. Alright, I'm just going to get that positioned where I want it. That looks pretty good. Again, the bone folder will help you to get a beautiful, smooth adhesion. Alright, so that's what that looks like so far. And then the same thing for the other side. And I'm applying the glue close to the edge, but not right up to the edge, because when I burnish it, that glue is going to flatten out and move a little bit. So I want to try to prevent it from seeping out the edge if possible. It's not always possible. And if you do get a little bit of glue at the edge, no worries, you can just use your glue eraser and pick that right up again. Okay. There we go. Alright, so there is my cover starting to shape up here. Now, what I did on my prototype here was I actually added a little scrap piece of the file folder to give it a little more strength in the spine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. So I have these extra pieces, and I'm just going to see how this one fits. Well, that might be just right. I'm going to make it a tiny bit shorter, just like a millimeter, half a millimeter shorter than the height of the spine, and that's just so it doesn't show from the outside. And this is optional. You don't have to do this. I like to make things to last for a while. I like them to be sturdy, but this is not necessary. I just want to make sure that my covers fold. Get that centered. Okay, so there's our cover with the reinforced spine, 2 pockets, and designed to fit the 8.5 by 11 paper. You can make this a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but if you're using the file folder, this size works really well. I'm going to grab my glue eraser. I'm just going to make sure I don't have any little bits of glue. It's a lot easier to clean it up at this stage than later, and I know I've got some glue there. Okay, that feels pretty good. I will list many of the supplies that I'm using today so that you can find them easily in a separate post. So just later today you can come back and you can find that list of all the things that, or many of the things that I'm using. So there we go. That's my cover. Now, I also have a template here. So this is just a little 2-inch by 8 3/4 inch piece of cardstock that I scored down the center, and then I just pierced some holes in it, and that's because this is going to be a stitched binding. So I'm going to be using the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But what I want to do is I want to add another little score line in here, because rather than having a simple folded spine, we've added that little additional 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to go using my trimmer. I'm going to go ahead and add a score line, and I'm just trying to get this placed in here. I use a piece of tape to hold that in place. Okay, and then the same thing on the other side. This is at 1 1/4 inches. All right. Now the reason I'm doing this is because if I go ahead and fold that on those scores, this is going to fit nicely inside that spine, so I get the center exactly where I want it. So I'm just going to grab a couple of paper clips. I'm going to line that up. Top and bottom. Okay, just check that that's where that I have my center lined up. That looks good. And then with my piercing mat and my paper piercer, I'm just going to go right through the spine. Okay, so there are my stitching holes. And I'm going to do the same thing to my signature. Now for my signature, I am using several sheets of copy paper. So all I'm doing is folding that in half. Okay. Tucking them inside of one another, like so. Now for this particular signature, I have 6 pieces of paper, or 6 folios. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and I'm going to, now you can trim the edge here to make it perfectly even, but you don't have to, because this paper's thin and I'm not using a lot of it. It's not essential, but if you wanted to, all you do is get that situated in your trimmer, and then you're going to run your blade a couple of times, and that's going to even up that edge for you. Okay, once you have your signature ready to go, and I'm thinking I might want to add a piece of cardstock, so I'm going to pull out a piece of white cardstock. And this is not the thick, this is just the standard cardstock, and I'm going to use this as a kind of a cover page on the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and score that at 5.5. Just like so. Fold that. I'm going to tuck my signature in there. And the reason I want to do this is not only does it give the book a little more stability, but I'll be able to stamp on the cardstock here, and that will make a really nice stamped impression. So now we're going back to our jig and the piercing mat, and this time I'm going to use that center fold. And get everything all lined up. Now my jig is a little bit bigger than the paper because it was cut to fit the cover. So I want to get that centered on there, so I have an equal distance on both sides. And then, being very careful to hold everything together, squeezing that fold down, I'm going to go ahead and get my piercing tool and pierce the signature. And that's going to line up perfectly with the holes in my cover. All right, and now I have some of the linen thread here, and I'm just going to stitch this down. Just grab some string. And now you have a decision to make, because you can decide whether you want the tails to hang on the inside or the outside. And before I do that, actually, I want to do one more thing. I have a piece of ribbon that I want to use as a closure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of that double-sided tape to hold this in place. Press that down. Okay, and then, now I've already tied my bow, and I know that I want that bow to be somewhere like that on my cover. So that tells me, so if I hold my finger here on this fold, if I just untie that, and then take that fold and line that up with the center of my spine, I can put a stitch in my ribbon as I'm stitching in my signature to help keep that in place. So I'm going to begin in the center. I'm going to pull my thread through, and I'm going to make sure that I leave a nice tail on there in case I need a little extra. Then I'm going to go through my cover and the ribbon. Then I'm going to come back up through here and through my signature. Get that lined up again. Okay. I'm just going to give that a little tug. Make sure that my stitch is nice and smooth on the outside. Now this time I'm going to go all the way down to the other end. Okay, and I'm going to go through the exact same hole and I'm being careful not to pierce the thread, so I'm just putting the needle alongside the thread that already excuse me, is going through the hole. And same thing with the signature. Now I want to get the tails on either side of this long stitch. Okay, and then I'm just gently tugging on those tails to make sure that everything's nice and neat. And give that a good tug, And then what I'm going to do is just tie this in a double knot. There we go. Now I'm going to leave these strings long for now. Just going to even them up because I may or may not want to add something to the bottom of the strings. I'll leave that until I decorate the book. But for now, there is my journal made with its beautiful ribbon closure. Okay, and this can be decorated, it could be stamped, you could stitch things if you wanted to. I've shown you how to do lots of journals where I've stitched fabric and other papers to the cover. So I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'll just put a couple of stamps on the inside. So what I'm thinking is to have my sentiment down at the bottom. I'll have the figure dancing across the top, and then with the beautiful celebrate, well, it's not mounted up, but I would put the celebrate up on top. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to work on that off camera, and then I will show you how it looks in the thumbnail. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that gives you some ideas for how to create a very simple but sturdy journal that could be used for all sorts of things. So it could be, as I mentioned in the beginning, it could be for gratitude, it could be a travel log, it could be a sketchbook, it could be a diary, it could be a photo album. You could fill it with more cardstock instead of paper and adhere photos to it. So you could do just about anything, and they would also make a terrific gift to somebody. So I hope you like that. Let me know in the comments if you have ideas on how you would like to use your journal. And also, please make sure to sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage, because in the next issue I'm going to be including information on a journal making workshop with a little kit, and so you may be interested in following along with that, and I'd love to see what you'd come up with, because I know that there's a lot of opportunity here to really make these your own and very personal, and I can't wait to see what you all do. So thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back next week for Watercolor Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I'll see you then.